In a stunning political turnaround, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has led the Labour Party to a historic landslide victory in the 2025 Australian federal election. Discover how this remarkable comeback unfolded and what it means for Australia's future. Labour's Anthony Albanese has defied the so-called incumbency curse to be re-elected Australia's Prime Minister in a landslide. Official vote counting won't finish for days, but Albanese's centre-left government will dramatically increase its majority after the Conservative Liberal National Coalition suffered a thumping defeat nationwide. Today, the Australian people have voted for Australian values, for fairness, aspiration, and opportunity for all, for the strength to show courage in adversity and kindness to those in need, Albanese said. Coalition leader Peter Dutton, who lost his own seat of 24 years, said he accepted full responsibility for his party's loss and apologized to his MPs. Labour has seen swings towards them right across the country, a rare feat for a second-term government in Australia, and Albanese becomes the first Prime Minister to win back-to-back elections in over 20 years. The party's success has also tempered a trend of voters abandoning the two major parties, which was the big story of the last election in 2022. Labour is on track to finish with 86 seats, the Coalition about 40, and the Greens Party with 1 or 2, according to projections by the Australian Broadcasting Corporation ABC. Other minor parties and independents are ahead in 9 seats. That represents an increase of 9 for Labour and a significant drop in support for the Greens. However, most teal independents have been returned in their more conservative inner-city electorates. It's a remarkable turnaround from the start of the year, when polling put Albanese's popularity at record lows after 3 years of global economic pain, tense national debate, and growing government dissatisfaction. The 5-week campaign was dominated by cost of living concerns, particularly the affordability of healthcare and housing, with issues like energy and climate change, international relations, and migration also rearing their heads. Albanese touched on most of them on Saturday night. He reiterated his promises to make healthcare, most critically GP appointments, more affordable, put buying a house in. Notably, he also vowed to advance reconciliation for First Nations people. We will be a stronger nation when we close the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. It's a veiled reference to the biggest moment of Albanese's tenure, the failed voice referendum of October 2023, which sought to recognize Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Constitution and simultaneously establish a parliamentary advisory body for them. Australia remains the only Commonwealth country to have never signed a treaty with its Indigenous people. Reach for more Australians and do more to address climate change and protect the environment. The voice was one of Albanese's most defining policies and his most striking setback. It was overwhelmingly rejected after months of often toxic and divisive national debate. Indigenous Australians have told the BBC they feel like they've been forgotten by policymakers since. The Prime Minister also found difficulty trying to walk a middle path on the Israel-Gaza war, raised eyebrows after buying a multi-million-dollar beach pad as voters grappled with a housing crisis, and, like other leaders globally, grappled with tough economic conditions. With tanking poll numbers, Albanese was broadly seen as the underdog coming into the election and was poised to be the next victim of the incumbency curse, a term to explain a global trend where struggling constituents were turfing out governments after a single term. Dutton, on the other hand, looked like he was writing a great political comeback. He was on the edge of bringing his party from its worst loss in 70 years back into office in a single term. It has been almost a century since a first-term government has failed to win re-election, but as Australian National University Emeritus Professor John Warhurst said, Dutton entered the campaign, year in front. It was his to lose. Instead tonight Dutton has overseen a party loss so emphatic he has lost his own electorate of Dixon to Labour's Ollie France. I love this country and have fought hard for it, he told supporters in Brisbane, conceding defeat. We have been defined by our opponents in this election, which is not a true story of who we are, but we will rebuild from here. And we will do that because we know our values, we know our beliefs, and we will always stick to them. His campaign was marred by unforced errors, including a series of policy backflips which caused confusion, awkward mistakes on important issues like cost of living, and, perhaps most memorably, accidentally booting an AFL ball into a cameraman's head. The opposition has been shambolic, Professor Warhurst says. But the government, while resolute and disciplined in its campaign, was timid. Its strategy was largely allowing voters to judge Dutton and his party, rather than advancing bold or convincing policies, analysts say. And that's something we heard from voters throughout the campaign too. While the coalition turns to licking its wounds and choosing its next leader, it will again have to reckon with its direction. Last election, analysts and some of the party's own MPs cautioned against a move towards the right. They questioned whether Dutton, a polarizing figure considered by many to be a conservative hard man, was the right person to rebuild support, particularly in the moderate areas where they lost a lot of it. After a campaign which in its dying days ventured into culture war territory, and what some say are Trumpian politics, the coalition is going to have to ask those questions again. And if they want to be competitive, perhaps find different answers. We have to stop drinking the Kool-Aid from the fire hose, and we need to have a serious review. We delude ourselves that we are just a few tactical devices away from winning an election, former Liberal strategist Tony Berry told the ABC. But meanwhile, Labour has to decide what it wants to achieve with the large mandate Australia has handed them. Albanese's incumbency curse turned out to be a gift, with international uncertainty appearing to have swayed voters in countries like Canada away from change. Likewise, Australia voted for stability. Labour struck a middle-of-the-road path with its policy platform, but can now afford to be braver, says Amy Ramaikis, chief political analyst at the Australia Institute think tank. That was the path that they took to the election, and that is what they are seeing has paid dividends for them. But the question now is, will Labour actually do something with power,